This is The High Road with author and registered psychotherapist, Dr. Marlene Bizub. Dr. Marlene speaks to the heart of people who need to be lifted up and get out of the muck and mire that often accompanies major life changes, such as divorce or separation. Dr. Marlene will aspire to help parents of divorce to love their children more than they hate their ex, and to learn to take the high road. So please welcome the host of The High Road, Dr. Marlene.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. Hi, George.
Hi, Dr. Marlene. Great to be with you, and good morning, at least in our time zone.
Yes, good morning. It is early. This is early for me. Anyway, I appreciate you being here and doing this with me because I'll tell you, the legal component is probably the biggest part of what we need to impart to people. And so I appreciate you being here because that is not my area of expertise.
Well, supposedly it's mine, but I'm not so sure nowadays.
Well, that's a good point. Things change a lot, don't they?
They really do, and the legislature can repeal our knowledge every year.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up with, and I didn't realize that, when I started out 30 years ago doing this kind of work, I didn't realize that things change. And so, something that I was used to for 6, 8, 10, 12 years, I all of a sudden hear that there's a new statute or new case law or something like that. And so, our parents out there who feel lost, we understand, or I understand. I don't know if you do, George, but I understand.
Oh, I do, and it's sometimes difficult to keep up with all the changes.
Yes, yes, it is. And, we're, at least where I live, you and I are in two different towns, but where I live, and you used to live here, we're a military town. We have Army here, we have Air Force here, we have the Air Force Academy here. And so we're a mobile community to a great extent, and things are different from state to state. And people don't realize that. And they'll come in, they've got an order from another state, and they're kind of lost because they're hearing one thing because it's what we do here, but their order says something else. While we're on this topic, correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't matter where they are now and where their order came from until their order is changed in a new state or something. They need to follow their order, correct?
Yes, and really what we look at is a big long name for an act called the Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction and Enforcement Act. And
Wow. Wow. That's a
that's
mouthful.
that's a mouthful, and we look at who's going to take the case, where should the case be set, and that's the way we decide, and where a court will rule on where the case should be.
And so, to that point, should somebody who's moving permanently file a foreign decree? Am I saying that right? Do you want to file it with the new state or?
Well, it depends on what's going on,
Okay.
truthfully.
Okay, fair enough. I figured that was a loaded question.
But I can say
In fact,
this:
mhm,
we're lawyers are not hired to be conciliatory. We're
right.
hired to be warriors and to
Yeah.
fight for our clients. So we really have to look at a whole paradigm shift to emphasize good co-parenting after divorce or separation.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And to answer Do they need to do this or that? Any of those questions. I'm going to give the standard attorney answer. I've learned this over the years, and that is it depends. Correct?
Depends. Correct.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I have found that that really is true. That's not an attorney trying to avoid an issue or not answer a question. It really does depend.
It really does. And the facts of the case are different from case to case. So, really, that's quite an honest answer.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Okay, let's get to it. We're going to finish up today. I am determined to finish this series today, but this is such a good and important and probably the most useful topic of the things that we talk about. There's a lot of good ones, but knowing what the rules of co parenting are so that you can adequately put in your parenting plan what should be in there is crucial. It is vital. It is of utmost importance. I know you're going to agree with that.
Well, it absolutely is, because the first thing I say to, would have said to a client is, have you looked at your parenting plan?
Right?
When
Right?
they encounter a problem or a challenge, the first thing we do is look at the parenting plan.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I have to tell you, I jokingly say, but it's true, that, but kind of my standard way of describing this is that when parents come in and just want me to help them with the parenting plan, they'll have 6 or 7 items when they get here, and they'll leave with 22 or 23, which sounds like a lot, but it makes their world and their lives so much easier moving forward. And last night, I was teaching the level 1 co-parenting class for the court, and a guy was telling me that he and the mother of his child, one baby, 6-month-old baby, had a plan already, and they thought they were, pretty close to an agreement. And I said, "How many items do you have in your plan?" And I'll be darned if he didn't say 6 or 7. And so I shared with him that I jokingly say people come in with 6 or 7 and leave with 22 or 23. But that's why this series has taken us a few weeks to get through, is because there are a lot of considerations to make about what's put in your parenting plan. And the more specific it is, the easier your life will be. For example, this is my favorite example, is if you have a holiday plan and it says one of you gets Christmas Eve and one gets Christmas Day, everybody's happy with that until Christmas gets here. And then it becomes, what time do you exchange? Do you exchange Christmas Eve later in the day or Christmas Day early in the day? And does this parent drop off or that parent pick up, or you meet halfway? These are the details that comprise the 22 or 23 items that I put in plans, but it makes your life a lot easier. Do you want it to say Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, or to say at 9 p.m. Christmas Eve, mom will deliver, or the parent who has them that year for Christmas Eve will deliver the children to the other parent, or the parent who's receiving them will pick them up, or whatever. But it's a lot easier if all of that is spelled out.
There's no question about it. And the other big one that seems to be a recurrent problem for people is telephone behavior.
Yes, yes. And we covered that already, but it is worth repeating that parents communicating with the children in the other parent's care should have an expectation of privacy when they talk to the children. On the other hand, it doesn't need to be excessive. It doesn't need to be 2 or 3 times a day that they talk on the phone and for an hour. That's excessive. that's disruptive to the parenting time of the parent who has the children.
Yeah, I think that's true, and it really becomes kind of that helicopter parenting if we're not careful. And
Hmm.
the parent who has the child has, I think, an expectation of privacy of their own,
Hmm.
uh, or they will have that time without constant interruption from the other parent.
Yes, yes. And I say this a lot, but I'm going to say it again. The golden rule applies here. Just treat the other parent the way you want them to treat you when you have the child or when you don't have the child.
Well, and I think that includes making changes, making agreements to change schedules or to trade time. And I would just add to that, put it in writing, get an email down, get something down that memorializes what your agreement is.
Yes, yes. Because otherwise, you're not going to agree on what you agreed to.
Right.
You and I've seen that a time or two.
Absolutely. Memories
Yeah.
fade. Interpretations are different from person to person. So if it's down just a brief memorialization of what your agreement is, it's very helpful and can often avoid a more serious conflict.
Yes, yes. And this was a couple of weeks ago. So we are talking February. Okay, it was still February. And I had a parent who could not, well, the two parents could not remember or they could not agree on what they had done this year at Christmas. And it's February and they couldn't agree. And he's saying, "No, don't you remember? I let you drop them off late." And she's
Mhm.
like, "No, I dropped them off at," and they could not agree on what happened in December, and it was February. So there you have it. This is why you have to write things down, get them in writing. I mean, even if you send an email, like you said, to memorialize it. Um, but you writing in a little note over here isn't going to cut it. It's got to be communicated to the other parent.
Yeah, absolutely, and avoids a lot of conflict, misunderstanding. If there's a problem with the email, if it digresses from what the understanding was, the parties have a chance to straighten that out.
Yes, yes. And I've had a lot of parents say, "I wrote it down. It's in my notes. Do you want me to show you?" And I'm like, "If you didn't share it with the other parent, no, because it means nothing."
Right, right, and those memories fade and
Yeah,
understandings differ, and so it's very, very helpful to have just a very small writing that indicates what the parties have agreed to when they make a
yeah,
change or they trade time or have a change in how they're going to handle the exchange, then it's very helpful to have that. It's just kind of an extension of the parenting plan. So if there's confusion, they look at that writing that they have exchanged, and that
mhm.
will often clear things up.
Right, right. Or I tell them, if you don't want to bother the other parent or you think it's going to create an issue, send it to me. And I'll let the other parent know that I have it and what it says to make sure they agree. But sometimes a parent says, "Well, no, because he or she complains if I communicate too much," or, whatever it may be, especially over the holidays. And so you have other resources out there. You have your attorney, you have your mental health professional on the case, hopefully. And so there's ways to memorialize things.
Well, I think that's invaluable to have the help and assistance of a mental health professional on the
Mm.
case. Again, we're not trained to be conciliatory. And
No.
so we have to learn a whole new set of skills, really,
Mhm.
uh, to try to redirect people without having them feel like you don't trust me or you don't believe me. And so it's a delicate balance that we have to strike there.
Right, right, especially for the attorney. Yeah. In fact, sometimes you'll probably get a kick out of this, I hope. I hope you aren't offended by it. But I will sometimes tell a parent when they're calling me and I sense they're just trying to get me to agree with them and be on their side, if you will. I tell them, if you're looking for someone to be on your side, call your attorney.
Certainly. No, I agree with that totally.
Yeah.
And they really do want to feel clients. I think that the attorney is on their side.
Mhm.
The attorney is there for them, takes them at face value, and sometimes that's difficult because some of the stories we hear about conflict are just not very believable, or
Right,
they're not very reasonable anyway.
right, right. And that's where our communication apps come into play too. Those can be invaluable because then you have a record of it.
Yes, and again, if people are going to deviate from that parenting plan, first of all, they need a good, thorough, comprehensive parenting plan. And then
Mhm,
if they're going to make little adjustments or deviations, to put that little email or that little communication in the app that they're doing so and what the terms of that agreement are, that's invaluable because
mhm.
really it gives people a frame of reference.
Yes. And there's a permanent record there that you can't alter or modify. Yeah. All right, let's dig in here. Oh boy, this one is pretty detailed. So I'm debating. I'm thinking about waiting until break, but let's dive in. Co-parents are expected to understand the boundaries between the two households and to respect those boundaries. Each parent is the head of their own household and, as such, is allowed to make decisions within their household without consulting the other parent. I get parents who complain a lot about what's happening in the other household. And I tell them, you can't control that unless it rises to the level of endangerment for the children, which is a high threshold to meet. You don't have any say so or control about what happens in the other household, and you should not be commenting on it because it's just not your place. You each get to parent autonomously and independently. And George, I would say, you can tell me what you think, but I would say this is the number one problem with many, many parents, especially if they have been kind of the primary caregiver of the children, is understanding and accepting that they don't have any say so at all over what happens when the children are with the other parent, like I said, unless it rises to the level of endangerment. But it's hard to meet that standard.
Well, that standard endangerment encompasses significant emotional impairment or
Mhm,
physical danger, and it is a
mhm,
very high standard to be met in a courtroom.
mm. Yes, yes. And we've talked about this before, but what we often see is what the court calls bad parenting or even really bad parenting, but it does not rise to the level of endangerment.
Right, and again, that's a very high standard to be met because there's an expectation that if it is met, there's going to be a significant curtailment in the parenting activities of the parent who has created the endangerment.
Right, right. And we can talk more about that too. We're actually getting close to time for a break. So we will give you examples and we will explain what we mean when we come back. But this is probably the most important stuff for parents to know. So stay with us. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. You know, George, you do have, well, I guess we don't say my last name either. I was going to say you do have a last name. I could share with people your last name, but I guess we don't use mine either, huh?
No.
Before we went to break, we were talking about how each parent is going to have very little control over what happens in the other household. And I'm going to give some examples of the kinds of decisions that parents are allowed to make. And it really encompasses anything and everything if you want to know the truth. But in the item that we have that we use, it says they may make decisions about chores, allowances, television watching, video games, bedtimes, homework, food, and clothing. And I would add to that right off the top. Oh, I'm sorry, I got distracted. Our last names are on the screen. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there. That is so funny, and that is true. So people can find us. Darn it. No, I'm kidding. No, I would add to that list whether or not children go to school. Because as you know, George, I've talked about this before. It's a pet peeve of mine. I'll get a call from a parent saying, we have joint decision making. My ex kept our son home from school today and either did take him or didn't take him to the doctor, and she didn't consult me. Well, or he. It's not always the woman who does that or the man that complains. But you don't have to consult each other about day-to-day decisions. So whether they are sick enough to stay home from school, that's not your call. And the other parent doesn't have to consult you about that. Or whether they go or don't go to the doctor when they're sick. That's each parent's call to make when you have the children. It doesn't hurt to communicate that to the other parent. Like, Bobby is homesick, haven't taken him to the doctor yet, but if he gets any worse, I might. If I do, I'll let you know. I mean, it's that simple, but they don't have to consult. Now, please tell me I am not wrong about that.
No, I don't think you're wrong about that at all. And it covers so many things. Like you read like a laundry list there of issues and items that are really private to the parent who has the child of the moment.
Yes. Yes. And I get complaints too about food. And that's why, when I first read this list many years ago, I'm like, food, clothing, who's arguing about that? Oh, parents argue about food a lot. I get complaints a lot that the other parent never cooks for them, always buys them fast food, or always makes them make their own peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that's all he or she ever feeds them. You know what? If they're being fed, a court does not care. They do not care. The only time they'll care, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, is if it's a diabetic child and you feed them sugar. Now we might have a problem, right?
Sure. And conceivably that might rise to the level of endangerment.
Yes. Yes, that could be endangerment. Yes. Yeah. Good example. But all these other things, each parent is the head of their household, and things like curfew. Now, parents have to be careful because I've had this happen before too, not to let their teenage kids stay out past legal curfew, because I had that come up in a case. But as far as what your bedtime is or any of that, it is up to the parent who has them.
Well, I guess a question I have for you, Dr. Marlene, is
Mhm.
um, does a child feel more comfortable, more secure if the parents tend to be consistent in both homes?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And thank you for acknowledging that and bringing it up. Because, yes, the more consistent our households can be, the better for the children. Because now they have a consistent set of rules. Can they keep track of at mom's it's this, at dad's it's that? Sure. They do that all the time. In school, we act like this. In the library, we act like that. In church, we act like that. On the playground, we act like that. But is it a lot easier and healthier for them to have the same rules and roughly the same bedtime and things like that? Yes. Yes. And same schedule? Yes.
Well, and I think the risk of not having consistency between the homes is that the child or the children find room to try to manipulate. Well, at mom's house, we do so and so. At dad's house, we do so and so. How come we can't hear?
Mhm. And you have to be careful with that because, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because sometimes they can do those things, whatever they tell you, at the other parent's house. And sometimes that is not true. The children are not reporting accurately. In fact, I said to a dad yesterday about the 8-year-old, soon to be 9-year-old daughter, she is not an accurate reporter of information because he was believing what she was saying, and I was pretty sure it wasn't quite accurate. And you can't, no offense to kids, I'm not calling them liars, but you can't trust everything they tell you because kids have been known to exaggerate and fabricate and things like that to get what they want or minimize. They might be minimizing something, and they will do that to get what they want. That's just human nature for kids. So, again, they aren't bad kids, they just are kids, and that's what kids do.
Well, and I think if parents take the high road, then they're more likely to work together to try to have consistent rules or fairly consistent rules between both homes. I think that
Yes,
would probably to a child.
yes, absolutely. And it reduces, all of this kids saying stuff. And something else about kids saying stuff, because this happened yesterday in my office too. Don't react when they tell you something, especially if you think it might not be 100% accurate. Because I have parents who go, "Oh, really?" And they react. Well, now you're just inviting that child to tell you things that are not accurate because you're reacting. And they just don't need to, first of all, go from household to household and repeat things anyway, even if they are accurate. But especially if what they're telling you is inaccurate, you sure don't want to encourage that type of behavior.
No, certainly not. And here again, I think there's a risk that a parent will try to use the child to pit the parents against each other, basically.
Hmm. Hmm. They do. And they know it gets them attention. You will often see kids telling one parent stuff a lot, like all the time, because that parent reacts and the children get attention and get a reaction. And parents might think, well, what's wrong with that? Oh, that just gives kids power. That just gives them power. They will do it to you that much more. And one of these days, you're going to get caught believing something that is not accurate, and you're going to feel duped. And it's your own fault because you listen to it, you react to it, all the things we shouldn't do with kids. And you know what's funny, George, is we don't do it so much when we're together. If kids come and tell us something else that somebody else, not the other parent, did, or maybe it is the other parent, but we react very differently when we're together. But once parents separate, boy, any little thing that other parent does sometimes it produces a reaction from that parent. And like I said, now you are creating a gossip in your child. You are creating a gossip. Mhm.
I think if parents can get in the habit of, in their co-parenting, of being consistent when the kids are younger or little,
Yeah,
then we're going to have an easier time as parents once those children reach teenage years.
absolutely. Absolutely. Start early. The earlier that kind of thing starts, the more consistent and more routine oriented their lives are going to be. And that benefits them.
Well, and I think that again is consistent with your mantra of learn to love your children more than you hate your ex.
Yes. Yes. If you are just looking for ammunition against the other parent because you still hate them so much or you are so angry with them, then yeah, your kids are going to produce it for you. They're going to supply it. But it's an unhealthy thing to teach your children. And you can expect it to come back on you at some point. Let's say they reach the teenage years and you do something they don't like. Guess what? They're going to go to the other parent and do the same thing to you. And that's something else that I can't believe parents don't see is if they are talking to you about the other parent, 99% chance they are talking to the other parent about you.
Mhm.
And parents don't believe that. They don't want to believe that. Oh no, my child doesn't do that. They confide in me about everything. And I just laugh because I know darn good and well the kids are going from household to household and doing the same thing as long as they get a reaction.
Yeah, I think it encourages children to try to be manipulative. And I think
Yes.
that I would speculate that that's generally true of the parental conflict. If kids can find an opportunity to exploit the parental conflict, to let them do what they want all the time, then they're
Mhm.
going to exploit that parental conflict.
Yes. Yes, for sure. For sure. All right. The next item that we're going to talk about is children have difficult times in their lives. All children do. Children of divorce are no different. They are going to have difficult times. And what they need is the love and support of both parents when they have a difficult time, not one parent trying to use the child's issue or problem against the other parent. And again, we would not see this most likely in an intact family. But you get parents who will blame the other parent for the problems the children are having. And they completely overlook the problem, the issue, and they don't deal with it, and it doesn't get addressed. And, I'll say no more. I'll let you take it from there.
Well, I think that children have the ability to foment conflict between their
Mhm,
parents if the parents buy into everything that the child says as if it's
mhm.
totally accurate. And they need to have a little bit of skepticism about the accuracy of the reporting that they're
Right,
receiving.
right, right. And even if a child says, so I'm going to use the problem of underage drinking, because we see that, from time to time. Um, Even if the child says, "Well, I got it from dad's liquor cabinet," you better talk to dad and make sure that's really where it came from, because it might have come out of yours or something like that. But yeah, kids will tell inaccurate information. Well, now we've got the parents pointing fingers at each other about the accessibility of alcohol for this child. And you might find, first of all, you've taken the focus off of the child now and you're putting it on the parents. But you might find that that backfires, that, like I said, they indeed got it from your house, not the other parent's house. And, kids are going to do that. And you get parents who become very critical and point fingers and place blame and, say things like, you should lock up your alcohol at your house. And then come to find out it was that parent who didn't lock up their alcohol.
Well, I think that can be a problem. And
Yeah.
um, there are all kinds of things that are appropriate for an adult that are not appropriate for a child. And
Yes.
that just requires the exercise of some good judgment.
Yes, exactly. But trying to take any little one of the, and I'm not saying that's a little issue, but any one of those things that children get into that causes them trouble and use it to blame the other parent, like kids skipping school. Well, he grew up seeing you call into work sick all the time when you weren't. So why wouldn't he skip school? It's like, really, do we need to go there? They need, again, the love and support of both parents to help them deal with their problem, not use that problem to point fingers and place blame. Like I said earlier, all you do is take the focus off of the child, and that's where it needs to be.
I think that's true. And people tend to get caught up in their own anger and so forth. And I used to
Mhm,
ask clients straight out, do you believe that your ex would harm your child?
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
most often the answer is no. I
Right.
and so you can take that no and build on it and say, then why wouldn't you want to work with that your co-parent to be
Mhm,
consistent for your child and present a united front, if you will,
mhm.
to the children as to how the parents' values are.
Yes, yes. And that is powerful. When you are a united front, you're going to eliminate a lot of problems with your kids because now they know they can't get away with things and they can't play one against the other and things like that, which again just takes the focus off of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, our time goes by so quickly, I swear, but it's time for another quick break. So we will conclude this when we come back. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. Before we went to break, we were getting to the end of our list of items that you want to make sure you include in your parenting time plan because they reflect the rules of co-parenting. And the last one, and we may review another one or two, but the last one that we haven't talked about yet is parents balancing their need for time with the children with the children's need to have activities and events of their own. So it might be a birthday party they want to go to or something else. And I'm going to give you a classic example that just happened this week. I had a child who the school's taking a field trip, and it's a night, and they are staying overnight at the museum. So they're doing a night at the museum for real, because I think that's a movie or something. But anyway, this kid is looking so forward to it, and mom has very limited time with the kids. And so she said, well, that's too bad. I guess he's going to have to miss that because it's during my time. And I said, no, that's not what we're doing. We'll find another time. And I don't even know that we need to find another time. But I understand when parents have limited time, they want to have that time made up. We can probably do that. But parents have to understand your kids are going to have birthday parties that they want to go to. They're going to have school field trips that they want to go to. That's going to interfere with both parties' parenting time. And to tell them no, or to think that we have to make all of that up, is just unreasonable. And it's not the expectation of the court. And George, this is probably one of the hardest ones that I get parents to understand, is you just don't get to count every minute and every hour because they aren't with the other parent. They're in an activity of their own. And I had a dad similarly tell a girl that she wanted to miss part of Dad's Saturday afternoon with the kids for some event, and I forgot now what it was. But he said, well, we'll have to find a way to make up that time. Again, she's not with mom, she's at this activity. And so, what's your thought on that stuff? Isn't that a hard one to get parents to understand?
It really is, and the idea that we're going to keep track of minutes in each home is
Yes.
just unrealistic. It's the same. I've had judges say they're not going to count beans when we argue about child support as to
Yeah.
who gets what beans in the can. And so really, judges are not going to be concerned because there are differences in parenting times, styles, as long as they're not harmful to the child.
Right. Right, exactly.
So
And
to try to track every minute, it's just unrealistic, and it makes life difficult, I would imagine, for both parents and the child.
yes, yes. And I can tell you in at least one of these instances that I just shared, the other parent had offered to drive the child. And that's what made Dad say, well, now it's obvious which one it was. It's the daughter, the 14-year-old, who wants to do something. I have forgotten what, but mom offered because there's 3 other kids and said, I'll drive her. So to Dad, that's giving the time to mom. And now he wants it made up. And I'm like, mom's not going to the activity. Mom is driving her for you to help you out so that you don't have to spend your time with all 4 kids driving her to her activity. But he has told her that she's going to have told the daughter, not mom, but the daughter, that she's going to have to make that time up with him. And again, I'm going to be the one to step in and say, I haven't talked to him yet. I can report back later on how this goes. But he's saying we have to make up that time. And I'm saying, no, we're not going to make up that time. She wasn't with mom other than the drive to and from the activity.
Well, I wonder how many of those types of behaviors are really stem from insecurity on the part of the
Yeah.
parent with their standing with their child or children.
Exactly. See, you should be a psychologist because
No,
you
no.
understand that stuff. Or maybe it's just I have rubbed off on you. I don't know.
I
But
think
you,
that's what it is.
I would like to think so. But you understand that. And a lot of parents don't. And quite frankly, a lot of attorneys don't. They don't understand this is coming from your client's insecurity in
Mhm.
his or her relationship with the children. Yeah.
And how is that best addressed? Is that best addressed with counseling with that
Yeah.
parent?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. Because I can tell the parent the same thing the other parent tells them, and they're going to receive it completely differently because it's coming from me. I'm non-threatening in terms of this is not a competition of who's closer to the kids and who knows best what's best for the kids. No, I'm somebody here to help and I'm neutral and I don't have a dog in the hunt, so to speak. And so, yes, if you have a professional telling the other parent things like that, it's going to be received by the other parent much better and come across much better to that parent because you're not being told by the other parent, you're not being given an insight that you didn't see. You know, if I see something and I have that insight, they don't resent that. But if the other parent has that insight that they don't have, they do resent that.
Well, and many times I found that I had to challenge my clients' assumptions. And when I challenge those assumptions, they often fall apart and say, well, I just thought that. I just thought that's the way it would be. And that's not the case. Again, you refer to that parenting plan, you follow the golden rule, you love your kids more than you hate your ex.
Hmm.
And those things are going to be largely not successfully 100%, but largely avoided.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. And that's why I think parents, at the very least, need to take a co-parenting class beyond the basic class that the courts make parents take. But take one that really dives into and digs into the rules of co-parenting and how it's done, because now you're the parent with the knowledge and the insight instead of being told by someone else, especially the other parent. Like you said, parents who really do, I hate to say it, but hate the other parent or are so angry or resentful of that other parent, they are not going to receive anything well from them.
No, I think anything that challenges a person's behavior, it has
Mhm.
to be done gently. But it's important to point out to that parent when it is their own dysfunctional relationship or attitude that's causing the problem.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And they often blame the other parent when it's their fault. They earned it. And that's what I tell them often is, and I say it nicely, gently, lovingly. I'm not hard on people, as far as being mean, but I tell them, you earned this. I hate to tell you, but you kind of earned it. And they're going to receive that from me, but not from the other parent.
No, and if they hear it from their attorney, then they have that feeling of, oh, are you really on my side?
Right. You're not the right person to do that. No. And I appreciate that a lot of attorneys like you have that insight and can see that. But you also know you have the awareness that you're not the right person because, like you said, now they're not going to think that you're supporting them. You're not on their side. You're on the other parent's side. And we can't have the parent destroy their relationship with their own attorney because that will just make things worse.
No, because then they have to change and start all over again, and it's a mess.
Yes, yes. And, I've seen it in the courtroom. You can tell a parent has a contentious relationship with their own attorney, and that's just never good.
No.
No. Well, it is hard to believe that we are out of time again, but thank you, George, for being here. And I hope this was helpful to all the parents out there. But we will be back with a new topic next week. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you've been watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll see you next week.
Tune in to The High Road with host Dr. Marlene and gain insight into how to rise above tough circumstances and learn the skills that will help you take the high road in your life, no matter what challenges might come your way, on the next episode of The High Road.